Hi, this is Michael Azarad, Editor-in-Chief of the Talkhouse, and welcome to the Talkhouse Music Podcast. The whole idea of the Talkhouse Music Podcast is to put together two musicians who are interested in each other's work. So when we heard that Radiohead's Philip Selway wanted to do a Talkhouse podcast with UK musician Obaro Ejimiwe, who performs as Ghost Poet, it made all the sense in the world. These two are definitely interested in each other's work, as you'll soon see. They get deep into their process in a really candid and insightful way, and they get to places that only two musicians would get. It's hard to categorize Ghost Poet's acclaimed music, but it involves vivid poetry and flowing grooves. His new album, his third, Shedding Skin, was recorded with live musicians, a new experience for him, and that's where he and Selway really connect. Although he's best known as the drummer in Radiohead, Philip Selway has released two very good solo albums, 2010's Familial and last year's Weatherhouse, so he can relate to Ghost Poet about moving to the front of the stage. They'd never met before, but they hit it off right away, just two musicians talking peer-to-peer. Selway has some great reminiscences about the dawning days of Radiohead, and Ejimiwe has some really great reminiscences about the dawning days of Ghost Poet. They discuss music theory versus intuition, collaboration, self-doubt, reading your own press, and much more. It's amazing how these two very different musicians relate. Those guys talk for an hour and a half, and it's all really great stuff, but we figured we'd split it up into two parts. Here's part one.
So what have you been up to?
Well,
What's been happening?
been couple of things.
Yeah.
Been doing my stuff this year, so that's been just been doing shows, and so it's festivals in over in the States. Played at Coachella, did a Hostess music festival in Tokyo earlier on in the year.
Nice.
And then club shows as well.
And this is all your own stuff, or this is radio?
All my own stuff.
Nice,
yeah.
nice.
And then in between time, we've been working on Radiohead stuff again as well. So that's been, that's been going in fits and starts.
Yeah.
But come September, it's just becomes quite a full schedule.
I hear you.
Then, but like yourself, because I mean you're out doing shows. You're in the middle of shows.
Yeah, I'm doing
you?
festivals at the moment. The summer festival thing, and I've done like a bit of Europe and a bit on my own UK tour.
Yeah.
And so festivals, which is always a bit weird for me because it's like with your own shows, you get kind of ahead of steam and you're just kind of like, okay, show after show after show, and you kind of get into the rhythm of it. With festivals, it's kind of like, okay, so you got a couple of this on Friday, Saturday, and then week off.
Yeah.
Get back on it again, and it's been a bit weird this year doing it, but I've enjoyed it. It's been interesting, really interesting to play live again because I didn't really do much last year with live stuff. I got a question.
Okay.
I've got a few questions that's going to pop up from time to time. How have you found being a solo artist? Because it's your second record, is that right? That you're in the campaign mode at the moment, partly.
Yeah.
How have you found that being like a solo artist away from the band stuff?
I've found it's felt rather more natural this time.
Okay.
It's, I suppose I first started thinking about it, probably about 8 years ago, 9 years ago, when I was just working on demos.
Yeah.
And then, going through that process of trying to find a singing voice, of actually thinking, okay, I'm kind of, I suppose, the focus of what's going on here, the focal point for it. And and beyond that as well, is actually working with different people. With Radiohead, we got together at school, and we kind of played exclusively with each other for a good couple of decades. And so that process of then going on, collaborating with other people, with the record I did release last year, I was working with Ardem and Quinta as well. And, we've gone on and done, other projects as well within that. Yeah. And that has just been such a healthy process. I mean, it's brilliant getting to work with, those kind of other different musical voices and personalities. And just, it kind of shakes things up for yourself. It gets you out of old habits, I think.
That was interesting, intrigued to know, in the sense of how did you find the process compared to working in the band? Did you find it quite difficult in the beginning to come up with ideas, or was it because what was the mind state in the sense of becoming a solo artist, so to speak?
I suppose initially I was working on my own with a producer called Ian Davenport.
Okay.
But kind of musically, I was generating what was going on there in terms of the arrangements. And, bits of that were coming out and thought, oh, that sounds, that sounds like me, and it sounds starting to sound convincing. And then what was a real eye-opener for me was going to do a project with Neil Finn, which is called Seven Worlds Collide.
Okay.
And I'd gone along to that gone on board with that as a drummer.
Right.
But I got to do some of my songs as well whilst I was there recording them.
Okay.
And just actually seeing how that worked in the context of, working with Lisa Germano, bassist Sebastian Steinberg, and Glenn and Pat from Wilco as well, and just suddenly seeing how everything got fleshed out in that way. And that whole thing of actually, thinking, okay, they're all brilliant musicians, got their own very distinct musical voices, and kind of going with that, really.
Yeah.
Just thinking, okay, that's a good blend. That felt like a really good blend. And I suppose that's what I've looked for when I'm doing my solo stuff, is that kind of good combination of voices.
Right.
And like yourself, I mean, like on Shedding Skin, there are quite a few collaborations going on, or guest spots going on.
Guest vocalists on there. I kind of I like the juxtaposition of my voice with voices, mainly like female voices, because it's just mine's rough and rubbish, and then you got nice, elegant female voices or ghostly kind of voices. I'm drawn to that. So with this record, I just kind of wrote. I write all the songs in terms of the lyrics, and I co-produced it with my touring bass player, a guy called John Calvert. And for me, I wanted to. My initial plan was to have one voice, the kind of the conscious of the record, and it's with all ideas, when they're just on a piece of paper in your head, they sound fantastical, and it's anything's possible, and then in practice this wasn't going to work. So I started to think about, okay, what voices work with the lyrics that I'm trying to portray in any particular song, and it was a combination of people that I knew and people that I just admired their music, and just went about it from that, really. And that's always the process of me with guest vocalists or guest musicians. It's either people that I know or this music that I love, that I want to be part of. So yeah, it was great fun. I done a lot of it here where we are now in Hackney Studios in East London, and it was it was great. It was great fun.
Some brilliant ones. I mean,
thank you,
Nadine Shah and Melanie DiBiasio as well.
Yeah. They're both amazing people. Nadine, I've known a bit for a couple of years. I think she supported me once on a gig, and I've just really been interested in what she's been doing for a long time. Yeah. So at the first opportunity I had to do something with her, I just had to try and see if she'd be interested. And she's amazing. I don't know if you've ever met her before.
I haven't, no.
She's amazing. She's just the funniest individual, and she just has this dark exterior. Everything's black and the music's bleak and dark, and you think, God, what kind of person is she going to be? But she's laugh a minute.
Right.
She's amazing. And Melanie's very similar to her persona. She's very just kind of subdued and
I've met Melanie.
Oh, you've met her?
Yeah.
And she's just very kind of just yes.
You meet her and think, she's the real deal, isn't she?
She really is. She's lovely woman. And she came over from France to record her vocals, and she's just amazing. Really, really, really talented individual. I love her music as well. From
last year, I was on kind of my albums of last year with No Deal.
Yeah, really good. Did you hear the remix record at all?
I've heard bits. I haven't heard it in its entirety.
Okay. And that's supposed to be doing really well for her as well, which is great, So yeah, I'm really pleased that I got to work with great people, and it's just something, I don't know, I think it's something I just enjoy doing. I did it from record to record, and I don't know. I may do it if I do another record. I may do it again, or just try something completely different, whatever. You know? Yeah.
There's quite a bit of coordination that goes into that, though.
Yeah, I guess so. With all like guest vocals for me, I just write the song, and then I have an idea in my head of the kind of vocal that I want for it, and then I don't think about doing it in the beginning. I do it at the end when it's like,
Right.
it may work, it may not work, and then I don't even know in a lot of cases until they come to the studio and record, because I'm just like, I know in my heart it's going to work, and then they start recording like, thank God it does work. It's okay. It's all right. So yeah, it's kind of touch and go if it, in the end, but I enjoy that.
It's that combination of just those hours before building up to the session, thinking the sweats and excitement. And
completely. Every time I do it to myself. I should just do it. I should just be a bit more practical about this, but I like that. The feeling of it, Yeah. So it's cool. I don't know. I admire. It's really interesting talking to you because like Radiohead and the way you guys make your music and the idea of like, especially like for me, if I'm honest, I kind of started to really get into you guys from like Kid A and onwards, really. Yeah. And it was just the idea that you can make whatever you want. There's no rules to it all. You can just do whatever. And I try to do that with my music as much as possible, and then it works. Sometimes it doesn't work, but that's I guess the beauty of being creative and being able to make music, it's just
and the great thing is you don't have to play people for bits that don't work.
Yeah, exactly.
We've got a whole archive of those.
But I'm intrigued in terms of with the creative process for you guys. Is do you go away and do bits yourself, or does it depend on record to record, or have you got like a formula? So just not a formula, but a set, like a natural kind of way of making your stuff, or just whatever happens.
It's interesting because there's a natural thing that falls into place if we're all sat behind our instruments in a room together,
right? And
at points it sounds like a sixth form band,
right.
And you listen to that and think, oh my god. But then every so often something will happen, something will gel there, and you think, that's a good moment. There's something to work on with that. Yeah. And then, working with Nigel, working in the studio, you've got the whole scope of that. And that takes it to a different place. There'd be, like on King of Limbs. I mean, we had the kind of the methodology there for it, which was putting together lots of these little snippets of music on the fly and building up songs from that.
Yeah.
So, we will approach, I think we kind of change from record to record, try and change the underlying approach to making music.
And is that purposeful, or is that kind of like it is?
I think it's something to do with short attention spans.
Right.
But I mean, at the core of that, though, there is that sense of a band, though, as well, which comes when we play together. So I think that's become quite a cohesive voice.
Yeah.
I mean, we learnt to play our instruments in the context of each other. So, that kind of shapes it in a particular way.
Yeah.
So, and it's interesting then what you take from that.
Yeah.
What you put together in the studio, and then how you kind of recreate that to go and play live.
Yeah.
And again, the next stage down, that's changed how you play.
Yeah.
In kind of real time.
Yeah.
And so, it's that kind of ongoing cycle there with it.
Just what at that point you mentioned about when you've made a record and then having to work out how to play it again live. Is that something you think about when in the recording process? Because for me, with the last record, the record I've just brought out, it's very much a case of I had that in my mind, like how is it going to sound live? Because I want it to sound. I want it to be an easy process from studio to stage. And I don't know, is that something you guys think about, or depends on the record? Or
I think we get very much caught up in what we're doing in the studio at the time. So the live thing is definitely something that comes after for us.
Right.
That's the next part. And it's always, that's always exciting. It's always a lot of head scratching that goes on there. You know, I mean, like with the last record, King of Limbs, because you know that was quite layered rhymthmically, and so thinking how we're going to do that.
Yeah.
So, you know, Clive Deemer came on board for that one, and so we did the double drummer thing when we were playing live, and that kind of thing. Then that, you know, that brought a whole new dimension to the playing and how we sounded as a band, and you know, just I suppose. Again, coming back to that thing I was saying earlier on, that we for so long we kind of played exclusively with each other, and that takes you so far.
Yeah.
And you know, so I suppose, you know, from album to album, you try and push yourself beyond your comfort zone with it, with thinking that actually you could go around in circles.
Yeah.
Quite easily on that, but then introducing, you know, these new voices into it, like Clive, or you know, when we were doing stuff off Kid A, you know, and for a few things we had, you know, his amazing horn sections with us, and all those things. They just, you know, they keep it. As I say, it takes you beyond where you would naturally sit comfortably.
And that's a good place to be, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know how you feel, but I always feel when I'm going into anything new, that I do not want to know what I'm doing here.
Yeah. Definitely.
Which, you know, depending on on where you're on kind of the self-esteem XY axis.
Yeah. It's a mental strain, you know. It can be for me. It is. Yeah.
But it's a good place to be.
Yeah.
And I feel if you're not in that place, then actually probably you're not going to do your best work unless you're there, really.
Yeah.
I think.
Yeah. It's interesting you say that. Yeah, it's really interesting because it's like I definitely with this record because I decided I wanted to make it with a band.
Yeah.
A band in inverted commas situation. I put myself in a position where I was working with people who knew way more music theory and technical stuff than I did. You know, up to that point, it was very much about, I feel these notes are right. I don't know what the notes are, but they just feel like the right thing to put down in this thing. And this sound and this kind of like whatever kind of like thing I've recorded on my phone, I just want to plunk it in there. It makes sense.
Yeah.
But then I was working with people who knew the rules, and it was really hard to mentally get them down onto my level. Do you know what I mean? And that was a tricky thing for me, but it was good, like you say. The end result I'm really pleased with because it took me to a place that I wasn't expecting to go, you know. And I guess it's a good thing.
Well, it's interesting. I mean, you're saying that's your approach because it does. You listen to the record and it feels very intuitive,
right
there. So that's, but that's, you know, and that's kind of what you know, good music is for me. It has to work on that level because, you know, people. You don't go away humming, you know, various bits of music theory, do you?
Yeah, this is true. A lot of my friends are going to kill me for agreeing, but yes, music theory friends, I still love you.
Absolutely, and that stuff is, I mean, all of that stuff, it's kind of, you know, we all do it naturally, whether we're aware of it or not.
Yeah.
And it's a really useful tool, but it's not always. Well, you know, you chose to work with people who've got those skills. So it's that kind of collaboration thing, which, you know, and it's all those different kinds of. I think it's really exciting where people they attain that kind of level of musicality, but it's coming from a different place.
Yeah.
And that's always exciting.
Yeah.
You know, you always bring different skills to the table, don't you?
Yeah. And I think that's important too. I think if you're hell-bent on doing your own thing all the time, which is important as well. I think it doesn't leave you open to ideas, you know, which I think for me is really important to like get not opinions, but there's a different perspective on things, and okay, you want to do something like this, maybe if you try it like this, it could work. And it's like, oh, okay, that's the light bulb moment I was looking for in that particular track or whatever. So yeah, I find that quite interesting working with people.
Quite intimidating though as well, working with people who've got all their theory chops
it was
together.
Difficult. It's just like I'm giving them the demos, right? This is the kind of thing I want to do. It's the sounds. It's like, okay, cool, right. So they're just flying across each other across the room, like, okay, it's C and like these notes and that notes. I'm just like, what? This is a foreign language to me. I'm just hearing this foreign language flying across the room, and I'm just like, how can I, because I'm a dictator when it comes to my own stuff, and I'm like, I need to keep my stamp on this. It has to be me, or what's the point, So it's very, I found it really, really. It took a long time to get my head around it.
So did you feel by the time you got to the end of the record that actually that was felt very identifiably you by the end?
Yes, yeah, and that's partly because I write it all lyrically, and before I went into the band situation, the demos were at a level where I was like, it's got a soul, it's got my own feelings in it, So I'm happy to work with a band to shape it, but not to create from scratch, because it would have been really difficult in that situation. But by the end, I was really happy with it. I think I was able to go to a place that I wouldn't have been able to go by myself, and that's what I wanted to do on this record, in the sense of this hopefully reach a slightly bigger audience and have music that was a bit more immediate. But the way my head works is, now that I've done this, I just want to do something completely different now, and this whatever, and so I've been listening to a lot of Talk, like their last couple of records. What is it? Laughing Stock, and what was the one before that? It was I can't remember. But the last two records are theirs, and I've just been blown away by the process. I've been reading about the process and their mindset when they were doing really well, and they decided, similar to like what you guys were thinking, in the sense of after when Kid A was produced, I guess, and this kind of this not feeling that you have to stick on a particular path, and it's the only way I feel I could be comfortable making music, or I'll still have the hunger to make it if I can just keep bouncing around, still obviously having an identity and having something, I don't know what the word is, but kind of still very much being me, but not feeling that I have to do one particular thing all the time, I don't know. That's kind of how I think with making.
It's having all these kind of different aspects to your kind of musical personality, isn't it?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I listen to so much. There's so many things that I listen to. I can't focus on this one thing all the time,
But it's like, writing lyrics or something like that. You wouldn't choose to write about one particular subject
over and over again. Oh my God.
Well, some people do.
Some people do. But I personally, I find it too boring. I couldn't do it. I wouldn't feel the need. I wouldn't feel there would be no need to do music if it was like destined. I had to write the same kind of stuff over and but partly because of also what my fans expect on my label or whatever. I couldn't do it. I don't. It's just me, really. Yeah. I'm just I'm a bit odd in the way I decide to do things, because I just try to go against the tide all the time. I just try and just do my own thing, and sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. But I think that's the beauty's in the unknown of it all. Do you know what I mean? The mystery of what, if I go down that road, what can come about from it. So that's kind of me when it comes to that. Question for you.
Yeah.
What for you? What? Where's the hunger still come from for you? What, as a drummer, what gets you up and wanting to get in the studio and pick up them sticks again? And what stopped you from this thinking, forget I'm done? Why keep going?
I think in the context of Radiohead, it's hearing the new material come through, and just thinking that's good, and wanting to be a part of that, and also, I suppose I'm very aware of my limitations as a drummer.
Right.
I think in one way that's been a good thing for me, because I think it's made me, I suppose, develop a very well. If you're into Radiohead, I think you recognise how I drum. And so it's quite identifiable in that way.
Yeah.
But at the same time, there's an insecurity that goes along with that, thinking, oh, gosh, who am I trying to kid? I'm a big fraud here. And so you're always kind of wanting to get beyond that. You think that there's something, actually, once I get to that point, I will have attained that, and I will feel good within my own skin about this. And of course, you have moments of that. But it's always just slightly out of reach.
Just out of reach. It just keeps you going just long after this, almost grasp it, but not quite. Right, okay, I hear that.
And then you hear, what other stuff other people are doing rhythmically as well.
Yeah. And
then, that's very exciting. I was watching a clip on The Guardian of you.
Oh yeah, okay, cool.
There's a recent clip with the band.
Oh yeah. That would have been like the Off-Peak Dreams thing. I did. That was like one of the singles they did. Yeah.
Which was great.
Yeah.
And just like watching your drummer on that. I thought,
cool.
That's good.
That's
right.
On it. He'll love to hear that. John Blees, he's a great drummer.
He really is.
He's doing a lot of interesting stuff now, away from me. Other people are starting to nick him now because he's very good.
That's the way it goes.
It's the way it goes, isn't it?
And also, doing my own stuff has been introduced me to working with other drummers. On my first record, worked with Glenn Cochee.
Okay.
Absolutely amazing drummer.
Right.
He's classically trained,
right?
But he's got incredible musical imagination.
Is that for you what makes, apart from the classically trained, that's like a genre thing, I guess, but not genre thing, but educational sense. But what makes a good drummer for you? Like
imagination and feel. God, I'm sounding like a 70s disco track, aren't I?
That's the question. I apologise.
It's just you know it, don't you? Somebody will. I mean, if you listen to Mitch Mitchell, you don't need to analyse it. It just grabs you, doesn't it?
Right.
He's got all the chops, but it was just delivered with real style and just this real energy behind it all as well.
Right.
And I think, where you come across it, where you find the musicians who've kind of had that level of training, they've got all the chops, but they've also got that extra something.
Right.
They've gone beyond that and they're back into the intuitive again.
Right, I hear you. Okay.
But also, there's an intellectual strand to what they're doing as well. But it doesn't stifle the intuition in what they're doing.
Yeah.
And I suppose that's kind of all the greats have had that, haven't they? They've learnt the rule book, and then they've
just tore it up.
But that rule book has informed what they've done, even if it is a case of just saying, no, I'm not going to do that.
Yeah.
It's a reaction to that. But, you get this level of technique and skill and musical insight that goes with that, I think.
Do you think it's difficult to break the rules if you know the rules? Does it depend on what does it depend on? Is it boils down to your peers around you or what you listen to? I'm always intrigued by that. I know a few people who are like that, who have the classical training, but they just completely go against it. Like I know a girl called Mikachu. I don't know if you've ever heard of her.
No, I haven't.
She brought out a couple of records on. First record was on Accidental, which was what's his bloody name? I'm rubbish with names, so this is good. Matthew Herbert, Matthew Herbert's label, and then she signed to Rough Trade and done another one on that, and she did the soundtrack for that Alien film that was set in Scotland with Scarlett Johansson in it.
Oh, okay.
What was it called? Oh, God. That film, she's done the soundtrack for that, and she's classically trained. I think she went to Goldsmiths, but she's just completely. The idea for her is just there is no rules, And for someone who doesn't know that about her, that she's classically trained, you'd think she's just some experimental mad woman, but she's taken the rules and broken that. But she's one example, but I know so many other people who can't get out of that. I don't know what is it. What makes you? What drags you away from the rule book?
Yeah.
I always find that interesting.
I suppose in kind of whatever walk of life you're in,
Yeah.
there will always be people who, have got that kind of self-awareness to think, that doesn't work for me. And I suppose, you apply that musically and you get,
I guess it's just a natural thing, I guess.
It's kind of there is that's kind of like a dual personality, isn't it? To actually follow that kind of, get that kind of level of musical attainment going down the classical route.
Yeah.
Requires an awful lot of dedication and a lot of faith in that system that will get you to that point as a musician.
Yeah.
But at the same time, you have this other kind of voice going on saying, no, that's not you.
Yeah, it's not you. Yeah. Yeah, I always find it fascinating. I think it's so important just to do what you feel, I just think it's so important to do that, especially for me, because I don't really know theory, and it's something I do want to learn more of. I'm always afraid that it's I'll start to become a slave to what I'm supposed to do, and like the right chords, and a lot of my stuff, the earlier stuff, is very much kind of odd chords and just wrong signatures and all that. But for me, it just feels right. So I just.
So where did you start musically then? Did you?
Where did I start? I started, I guess, probably university. I started. Went to uni 18, and somebody introduced me to Reason. Propeller Reason, it's like a DAW, and I just bought like an old iMac, and I just started learning that really, and because I can't play anything enough to confidently record, electronic music was the easiest way for me to get involved really. So this is something I don't really talk about either, because it gets annoying when I get asked this in interviews. It's not an interview, it's a chat. Yeah. But I kind of started like in the grime world because it was easily accessible. I knew people around who were producers, who were MCs, and it was music that was solely based electronically. You needed a MIDI keyboard, and then you could just run away with it. So I started there, and then I kind of done that for a couple of years. Again, this is like hobby, nothing serious at all, and I did that for a couple of years, and then I kind of just decided that I wanted to make my own stuff. I wanted to do my own bits, because I was kind of part of a collective of producers and MCs. But I just thought I wanted to make my own music, but I didn't want it to be grime. I didn't want it to be genre specific. I just wanted to make something that felt something, made me feel something. Yeah. So I just started this experimenting, and again, still just within the confines of reason, I just started just making these other kind of demos where it was involving this ambient sounds and like found sounds, and writing lyrics where I was talking about things I could see around me and real things that were going on in my life, and stuff that conversations I'd overheard, or news stories, or whatever. The stuff that I knew was real, not fake. And I just started to develop that really. And I used to put stuff up on MySpace back in the day. And I one day that's how I knew people like Mikachu and various characters who were making music now, like professionally. I didn't realize it was networking back then. It was just finding people that I just were like-minded people to me. And I, through doing that, a friend I made through MySpace knew somebody who worked at Brownswood, which is Giles Peterson's label, and they got in contact, and were interested in me sending some demos. So I sent some demos of stuff. I didn't really know what that meant back then. It was just kind of, okay, stuff that's kind of finished, right? So I thought, right, here you go. Here's a few things. Have a listen. Not thinking anything of it. At this point, I was probably much later than beginning of uni, so I was about 26, maybe 26, 27, maybe. And I was working. I finished university. I stayed in Coventry, where I went for uni, stayed up there, was working 9 to 5, customer service stuff, just doing the music in the evenings as a hobby. But like, I bought a few more bits.
Yeah.
It was a serious hobby, but it wasn't a career. And then from the demos being sent down, they said, "Oh, yeah, we like what you hear. We really like what we heard. Why don't you come down and meet Giles? Giles wants to meet you in London." I was like, "All right, fine. I've got nothing to lose. Why not?" So I went down there. I had a chat with Giles, and this was I didn't realise that Brownswood is actually what it used to be on Brownswood Road up in, is it North East London, somewhere around there?
Right.
And it's literally a kitchen and a living room, and it's kitchen living room, and he's got like it's a house or a downstairs flat, and he's got a basement full of records, just massive amount of records in the bathroom, toilet, living room, everywhere. So met him, and he was just like, "Yeah, I really like what you're doing. You know, what do you want to do with this stuff?" I was like, "Well, you know, it's at this point, I never thought of doing a career in music at all. I was brought up in the business environment. My parents were they owned an estate agents from when I was a kid, so I never really looked at it as a sustainable career.
Right.
So I just I went down there open minded, think, all right, let's see what happens. And he, by the end of the conversation, he was like, "Let's put a record out. Let's just do it." And I was like, "Okay, put a record out. That means I have to actually work at this." So yeah. So then from that, I just went back up to Cov and worked on the first record, really. I know it was literally old iMac. I had like a M Audio MIDI controller, and I think I had like a little old KP2 Korg effects processor thing. I think that was it, really. And other than that, I just recorded bits on my phone and stuff like that, really.
Yeah.
And I just did it at home, and it kind of went on from that. It got like nominated for Mercury Prize and stuff like that. And yeah, I just kind of it was really weird for me because like I said, it was a hobby, and it took a long time for me to take it seriously as a career because I've been so brought up with the idea that get involved with things that you know you're going to get a paycheck at the end of the month, you know, and you know where you're going to. There's a bit more control of what's going to happen in your career. So music.
Do you have a qualification of this? No.
No. And it was music wasn't encouraged by my parents. There's no one musical in my family. So for me, it was just like going into the unknown. So I didn't quit like my job at the time for at least a year. I was like working part time while the campaign was going because I couldn't bear having to rely on music, you know, as a career. But I'm glad I did it, and I've just tried to just build up something from then.
Good
you know?
choice.
Oh, thank you very much. I kind of just thought, yeah, why not? Give it a go. You got to try, you know. So I gave it a go, and here we are. What about yourself? Where did it? I'm sure you've been asked many times, but I don't know, so I'm intrigued to know.
Yeah, well,
where it started for
it
you.
was at school, really.
Yeah. And why drums?
That's the one that really appealed to me from quite an early age, actually. And I suppose I got into music in that whole kind of post-punk thing,
right,
as well. And you know, from a drumming point of view, you know, it had that kind of very visceral. Emphasis wasn't on technique; it was on feel and energy. And that kind of appealed to me, really. And so it was, you know, various school bands, and then we started Radiohead at school, and that kind of, you know, we were going for quite a while. You know, we, like you, all went off to uni and came back from that, and you know, I had a job as well, and so, you know, at the back of my mind, I was thinking, and it's something we'd all spoken about amongst the five of us. That we want to make a go of this at some point.
Right.
But you go along. It is a very time-consuming hobby. For a very long time.
Yeah, it can be.
And then you get to the point where suddenly somebody's offering you a contract and saying, "You can do this for money."
Yeah.
and you can make a living out of this.
How did that make you feel when you got to that point where I could do this as a career now? Was it a mixed emotions, or were you like, yep, right, we're ready for this, or how did you feel personally about that?
Initially, I think we signed, it was with Parlophone, EMI. It was just before Christmas in 1991.
Yeah.
And we all went down to Manchester Square, because that's where they were at the time. It's a place, had all the kind of old Beatles balconies and everything. You're really aware of the history of the label and of the place at that time. And so to sign, you go right up to the top of the building, and you're there and you do all your signing. Yeah. And I remember we left after that, and you'd have thought actually kind of that would be all your adolescent dreams come true.
Yeah, yeah.
But we were all remarkably sober about it. I just remember us walking out, just like, oh, right, we kind of need to get on with it now, don't we?
That's the thing, it's true. You're kind of like, yeah, this is it. This is what you've been reading about, and this is the dream. And you're like, oh, actually, I've got to do some work now. Yeah, it's so true. Yeah, yeah.
And then you go to, I remember we went the first time that we started playing in the States, which was 1993.
Right.
It had one of our early songs, first song, Creep, that actually did anything for us anywhere.
Yeah.
And so we kind of went over to the States on the back of that.
Right.
And so we were already there was a level of, I suppose, recognition there, admittedly just for the one song at the time. But there was an expectation of, I think, where you were supposed to be as a band.
Right.
And, I don't think our playing was quite there at the time. And you go over to the States and you come across all these other bands. It's a real eye-opener because, they can play.
Yeah, yeah.
At the time, I just remember thinking, oh, my God, they've got all the chops. And that was quite intimidating at the time. And, I suppose going through music has been kind of characterised for me by, as I was saying earlier, I'm feeling quite fraudulent at points. That's probably one of the most fraudulent feeling periods. Was that initial one?
Yeah.
But then again, it's just that sense that actually you've really got to kind of push what you're doing, and just really get your musical shit together.
Yeah.
And which is a healthy thing. It's so as I said, we learnt to play in a band, play in our instruments in the context of each other, really. Which was, I think you get something out of that if you can go the distance on that, which is quite idiosyncratic, and there's I suppose there's kind of a musical understanding that develops through that as well. So it is. I mean, we're coming up to the end of this year, 30 years since we started.
Really?
Yes.
Bloody hell! Wow. That's an amazing achievement.
And I remember looking back, I remember when the Stones did their 25-year anniversary tour, or whatever. And you think, oh my God, that's how can you play in a band for that long? We're coming up against 30. There you go.
No, well done for that. How many records have you released now?
This is the sad part of it. In 30 years of being together as a band, we've released 8 studio albums.
That's all right. That's not bad. Some people have only released like 2, 3 in like 20 years.
Yeah.
I was reading about D'Angelo. He's like got 2 records out, and it's in a case of 15 years, 20 years, maybe.
Right.
So 8's not bad. Doing all right.
You're very kind.
That's good. That's good. I think I just want to. I'm on 3 now, and I just want to keep. I want to keep going. I just feel I don't know. For me, as much as I like doing it, I want to diversify a bit and do other bits. I was mentioning before, like wanted to get involved in radio and potentially down the road, and I really want to get involved in art now. I think as well. I just come back from Art Basel, which is like an art fair in Switzerland, like supposedly the biggest art fair in the world, and I was really intrigued. This like the kind of not and what I'm going to say, it's not about a money thing at all, but I was really astounded by the scale of what you can achieve in terms of what you could put up on a wall or a sculpture. And it for me, what blew my mind is, and this is not the reason why I want to go into art, but I couldn't believe the kind of monetary value that they put on a piece of art compared to a piece of music. My missus is an art director, and she kind of got it more than me. And I just was like, I couldn't understand how a sculpture could be worth $1 million, but a track could be worth 99p, you know?
Yeah.
And it's like, I don't understand how did they get to that point, you know? I don't know are you interested in art or any of that kind of stuff?
Yeah.
I don't know. It's just intriguing to me.
But then again, you can buy a postcard of that sculpture for 99p, though, can't you? So
This is true. It's all swings around about some relative and all that stuff. But I found it really interesting. It was really intriguing to see like the stories behind pieces of art. I saw there was some musical bits. I actually went to do a gig over there for this guy called I should remember his bloody name. God, Mr. Simmons, I'll say, because I can't remember his first name at the moment. And he created basically a stack of speakers inspired by Lee Scratch Perry's Black Ark Studios, where it was literally he made speakers out of anything he could find, corrugated iron and thrown away wood and so on and so forth. And he's created that, and what he's doing with it is allowing it to tour around the world and get bands and acts to play through them, basically. So I did that there, and that was interesting. And there was other musical bits. I saw there was this artist had made a band out of discarded guns, like handguns and machine guns, and he constructed like cymbal stands and they were all playing themselves basically through speakers, and it was really, really mind-blowing, some of that stuff. Really interesting. And I don't know, it's kind of something, it's another thing that I feel that I want to just try, because I like the idea of just trying things that on the surface is just a ridiculous idea, but I feel it's just being creative, isn't it? You know,
absolutely, and
That's
it's
what
the
it
kind of
is,
a
you know?
motivation and the kind of dedication that needs to go in behind all of that.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
you know, I mean, to get to the whole thing with that whole kind of setup that works with speakers and things like that. Endless experiments to get you there.
Completely, yeah.
And then the kind of conceptualizing it all as well, and fine tuning that.
Yeah.
And the energy behind that. I mean, that always comes across, doesn't it? You can always get the sense of, even if a piece is a piece of music, a piece of art, feels quite minimalist, you can get a sense of the actual input behind that.
Yeah, completely.
And you know, I think that's what kind of, for me, brings art, music to life. Is that level of dedication behind it.
Do you read your own press and stuff, or do you kind of keep that you just ignore that stuff now?
I tell myself I shouldn't read it, but I do read it.
Yeah.
And it can be, sometimes you can get stuff out of it. It's actually really useful.
Yeah.
If something's really well written, if it's intelligently done, then it can just, you know, cast a light on something you might have been feeling about what you were doing, but it can just really hone what you just really, I don't know, it's almost kind of confirm, explain what you're doing in a good way, and you can take kind of a positive lesson from that. Yeah. Other times, you know, there's some things that you read which just feel as though, you know, somebody's trolling you, basically. And also, you know, you might be just in a particular frame of mind that day where you take it.
Yeah. That's true.
And that can be quite that can be quite damaging.
Yeah.
But at the same time, you know, if you don't want to read that, don't go and read it. And if you have read it, then you've opened yourself up to it. So it's
true.
fair game.
Yeah. Same. I read everything. I'm partly because I'm a nerd and I want to know everything anyway. But I read everything, and I'm exactly the same boat with you in the sense of sometimes of like, if it's well written and it's a critique, that's well written, I kind of do take it for what it is and think, okay, maybe they got a point there. But other times it's just like, really? Why did you waste your time writing this stuff, you know? And sometimes I've been very, very tempted just to write back and just be like, that's wrong, you know, that's not right. But I haven't bothered. I just think I've just got to get on with it, you know.
Absolutely.
I think it's great if you divide opinion. I think it's important to personally. I think if I'm constantly, everyone's either liking what I'm doing or everyone's hating it, then there's a problem. But either way, and I think I like it. It makes me laugh when in comments or whatever, one person will be like, "This is amazing," and someone else will be, "What is this? What is this shit?" And that makes me laugh. I like that. I think it's important.
It's very different now when we first started, when we were first signed, because I mean the kind of a feedback that you got then it was from the press. You didn't get any kind of the Twitter, the Facebook feedback, you know, any blogs around, and so
it's instantaneous as well. You know, you could put something up now and you'll get instant comment. I guess back in those days,
absolutely,
it was just literally reviews you got through and stuff like that, right?
Yeah, and so I mean, maybe in those days you took it a bit more to heart. Because there was less of it.
Right.
And yeah. No, I still haven't got my head around that one.
No.
I mean, I feel sorry for writers in some ways, you know, because there's a lot of material they have to get through. There's a lot of copy they have to produce. And
it's a different world now. Yeah.
So, you know, and it must be very difficult to find something new to write on.
Yeah, it's tricky, isn't it? It is tricky, and there's so many people who claim to be writers now, you know, and the real writers who've been around for a long time are having to bat off somebody who just puts up a blog today and says, "I'm a writer," you know, and it must be tricky for them. So you know, as much as I do love, it's, you know, it's great to be talked about regardless, you know, because, you know, at least somebody's noticing what you're doing. It's important.
Yeah. And we're all egomaniacs.
Completely, completely, you know, you try to hide it, but it is, you're right. It's very true. Talking of technology, see, I'm just switching out here.
Nice one.
I
didn't notice it. It was seamless.
What do you think of the whole streaming thing? Because that's a big thing at the moment. The whole
It's a very big thing, isn't it?
With Apple getting involved now, and obviously Spotify being around for a while. What's first and foremost?
As a user, I love it.
Right.
I'm listening to so much more music than I ever used to. And you know, just that whole thing, the fact that you can go and look at recommendations, you know, look at other people's playlists. Or even if you're kind of going to kind of like the online magazines where they're doing their playlists, the fact is that you can go either to their SoundCloud or go onto a streaming service. Many streaming services are available, and
indeed.
So that side of it, I think it's fantastic. Now, whether in the long run it can make a sustainable living for musicians, that's another thing. Apple claim that they're going to go there.
Yeah.
Which would be great.
It would be great, yeah.
Be interesting to see what happens with the 3 months of freeness, free subscription. But there you go.
Do you feel that this is now the future? We're not going back to record sales as the main source of income for musicians, or as a main source of listening for the consumer or fan of music. You know, in my head, I feel this is it. You know, I don't see it going back to the old days or the good old days, as people want to call it, whatever. I just think, for me, I think it's important to embrace it, and we'll see, like you say, with the Apple stuff, what's going to happen in that respect. I don't know. It's kind of different for me because I started my first record came out 5 years ago.
Yeah.
So there was already that going on. It was starting to become mainstream then, you know. So for me, I've just had to get used to it, and I look at other avenues to as revenue and so on and so forth. And I'm happy to do that. I think it's important as well. I think it's great on one hand because it has enabled newer artists to think outside the box a bit, you know.
Yeah.
I think that's great. But
I mean, but that's it. You don't want people to become institutionalized.
Exactly.
With, you know, that thing, okay, there's our advance.
Yeah.
But at the same time, I do worry about how new artists can afford to tour.
Yeah, it's
you know,
not
because
easy.
It is an expensive
Yeah.
process, and that's kind of one of the areas where you really learn your craft, if you like.
Completely.
So, I suppose music's muddled through for many decades, it's had its very greedy phases when it's been able to, you know, change formats every decade and get everybody to pay double. So people, this might just be wishful thinking, but I think, as you say, people with talent and with a good, I don't know, kind of independent frame of mind will find ways of making it work for them.
Yeah, you're right.
But it's finding a fair deal within that.
Yeah,
because you know you can do all of that stuff as an artist and think, right, okay, I have to look at all the ways that I can make this work for me as a living and continue making music.
Yeah,
it's sort of something slightly galling though when you see somebody creaming off a lot of money at some point in the equation. You hope that actually, you know, the streaming model will kind of redress that balance.
Because it's still in its infancy. It's not been around for decades, you know.
And it's, you know, I suppose there are a lot of setup costs in it.
Yeah. Talking of streaming, and you know, obviously you like you mentioned, like, being able to listen to lots of different music. What kind of stuff are you into at the moment? What are you feeling?
Oh, so what records I've been listening to this year. Really like the Holly Herndon record platform.
Okay. Yeah,
I think that's really good.
I mean, been meaning to check that out. Actually, I haven't heard that yet. Yeah,
very good. It's very clever, but it's also it's got that there's something very. It's like an emotional thread going through it. Yeah, which I think really good. The Nadine Shah. Yeah. Was it Fast Food?
Fast Food, that's the name. Yeah.
That's been a good one this year. Yeah. It was an album called Shedding Skin. It was all right. I thought that's
some moron from South London who thinks he knows what he's talking about, but really he's just blagging everything. Yep, I know that one.
Tom pointed me to Jeremiah J record.
Okay.
Just recently.
Yeah.
That's good.
Yeah. Okay.
Really like that one.
Cool.
It's been interesting doing the Six Music stuff, actually. Putting the playlist together and just, that's really, I mean, it's given me a good excuse to go out and listen to a lot of music.
Yeah, same.
And so, you know, that's good. That's really healthy. Again, you know, for something like with streaming there, I can do that.
Yeah, it's true.
You know, I'd just been a bit limited by my record collection before that.
I hear that. Another offshoot of that, actually, when you're going into like the recording process, do you not listen to music like outside stuff, or are you constantly listening to stuff, or it's a no once you get into like the serious business of it?
I think when you're right in the middle of it, I think possibly do stop listening to other stuff. And then you come up against a little bit of an impasse in what you're doing musically. And I think then it's really good to go and listen to something. Yeah. You know, that will just, that can free things up. Yeah. It can shift the blockage along. It's funny in I mean, in Radiohead, I suppose just recently, we've been sharing a bit, making an effort to share what we've been listening to with each other a bit more than we normally would.
Yeah.
That's been really healthy, actually. You kind of get an idea of where everybody's coming from.
Right. Everyone's heads
musically,
at.
and that's good.
Yeah.
How about yourself? Do you listen?
It changes from album to album. Like the last record, the current record, I was listening to like Nick Cave and Massive Attack, and The Cure, and these are records that I was listening to before and during the recording process. Previous to that, I like stuff like lots of other bits as well. The National I was really into at that time, and I thought with the previous two records, I just completely shut myself away, partly because what I found with this, like the Six Music thing, like what post the second record, I started to get like DJ sets and stuff like that. So I had to accumulate music to work in that world for a bit. So I started to get into music more, and it just made sense when I was making stuff just to listen to stuff alongside it or whatever. So with the previous two records, I didn't listen to anything. I just kept it. I was like, I want it to be completely my own vision. I don't want any outside influences. And I used to have interviews where people were like, so what's influenced the record and blah blah blah. I was like, nothing. I don't really listen to anything. They didn't quite get that, and I didn't want to have any kind of outside distraction,
Yeah.
Right, and there's different schools of thought and stuff like that, I guess. But with this record, I just thought, I want to be influenced. I want not sound alike, but I wanted to just allow music to direct things a bit more, other music and stuff that I admire and like and love. And I thought, I'll do it this time, and it's been fun doing that.
It's almost like having somewhere to aim for, isn't it?
And
actually where you end up
is
a lot in the
very
process.
For sure. I don't get nowhere near.
It's not what I was going to say. But it actually, because you're putting yourself into it, it becomes you. But as you say, it is informed.
Yeah.
I mean, like for me on my record, the one that I released last year. Yeah. The record that I kept on referring to was you're talking about Talk earlier. Yeah. Was the Mark Hollis solo record.
Okay. Yeah.
Which
I haven't heard that yet.
It's stunning. Yeah. It's a stunning record.
Okay.
And that I just kept on coming back to that. Although musically you can't hear it in the record. But there was just something about it. It was kind of like a touchstone for me as I was making my record.
Yeah.
And so you don't necessarily do kind of like a facsimile of what there is, but you take a spirit from that. I suppose.
Yeah.
And and that can provide a really good framework to work.
Completely. And I think especially with the way I decided to make this record with a band, it was nice to be able to say, right, I this is the kind of stuff I'm listening to, and I'm interested in this kind of world and what's going on in this record, and that really helped. That was definitely my tools of getting ownership of my record, this time around. Yeah.
So coming back to the live side of things with your record, have you had to change much taking it out live, or what's your setup on it? Does it?
This time around, I've always worked with a band. So in the beginning, I had a guitarist and drummer. Yeah. And I upgraded to a guitarist, drummer, and keyboard player, a female lady who could sing and play keys. Yeah. And this time, because
she's very good. Yes,
very good. And what I decided, and that was partly because I'd started to introduce female vocals into my records, and having a bloke do female vocals it's not always going to work. So it made sense.
Oh, hang on, we're back to the 70s disco thing.
So I decided with this record, with a new one, because I wanted to make a guitar record in the sense of a lot of guitar on the record, dominant on tracks. I added the guitarist this time. So it's like a guitarist, bass player, drummer, keys. And what I wanted to do, which I've tried to implement with the second record as well, is to play everything as much as possible live. There's no backing tracks. As little reliance as possible on computers, because I just wanted to have a live record, you know? And so that's the setup in the moment, and it's been good fun to play. It's nice to be on the road with a bunch of people that you get on with and are great musicians. And for me, I think it's getting to a point now where people are not surprised by my live show, because I think it's really good. And that's mainly down to my musicians. But I think a lot of people listening to previous records may have envisioned me having a mic and a laptop or something like that. And it's born out of just a love of acoustic instruments, and the music that I listen to, which is mainly old stuff, is acoustic in nature. So for me, when I was going into the live arena, it always made sense to have a band, you know, and I'm trying to build it as much as I can, really. And that's kind of the current setup, really. And it's good fun. I enjoy playing live. I didn't in the beginning. I thought it was terrible. I thought the idea of writing something in terms of lyrics, and then something you've written down, not really expecting anyone to come to a show and hear it, and then thinking, oh God, this is things that I didn't really want to put down on record, and I'm saying it out loud now, and So in the beginning, it was terrible, but now I really love playing live now.
Does it sound different to you when you're putting it out there?
What, in terms of the live shows?
Well, yeah, and in terms of kind of like the emotional intent behind what you're...
Yeah, and it's kind of like you have to, with the live thing, you have to kind of, for me, I got to detach myself a bit from it, because some of it is kind of really deep, and if I go to that place every night, I'll just, I'll do myself harm. So, and, not promoting self-harming anyway, just as a disclaimer. But it's a case of, I just thought, it's kind of, it's finding that balance between being sincere, but not, destroying yourself every night mentally, So I think it's important that I don't change the way I write, because I don't want to be sincere or have that truth. I think it's important to have that.
Yeah.
So, it's a tricky one,
How comfortable within yourself do you feel at the front of a stage?
It boils down to, if there's no technical hitches, that's usually a good start for me. And I don't know. I think I naturally enjoy being a bit of a showman and this messing about a bit. But I'm not like on a Nick Cave level. That's what I want to get to. But it's almost that invisible barrier of stage audience.
Yeah.
And like I've watched I've watched lots of his stuff, and I'm just like, I love the fact that he just gets involved with the audience, and there's that kind of connection on a one-to-one level, Yeah. And I try to do that, but it's almost like I don't know if I have to write songs to do it, or it's not within me to go to that extent, So I enjoy it a lot, and most of the times I am comfortable. It's almost like I'm playing slightly bigger places and slightly bigger stages, and it's getting used to the idea that this is your home. This is your plot of land for the night.
Yeah.
I just can't. It sometimes it's just a bit like, oh, okay, it's a bit bigger now, and how do I fill this space? And
it makes a difference, doesn't it, when people actually know the music?
Completely.
Like,
From the beginning of a campaign to the end, it's a completely different thing,
Yeah.
And I for that reason, I did like a couple of like warm-up shows where I played to literally like 50, 100 people, and there's a couple of places around the country that's literally playing all the new stuff just to get used to playing it live, and just playing to people who would have a clue what it is, and this gauging reaction to a certain extent, and just getting used to playing again, and just not being afraid if it all goes wrong. What about yourself? Like, almost 30 years. Congratulations. How does that? Are you completely comfortable now on stage? Are you? Yeah. Is it just like a natural thing now for you?
I've turned it. I suppose doing the solo stuff, I turned it on its head
completely. Yeah,
really.
yeah.
I've found I suppose drumming. I found a say comfort. It never feels completely comfortable, which is good.
Yeah.
But there's a confidence
Yeah.
there, and I've had to kind of relearn being on stage.
Right.
Going
right.
up to the front of the stage, you just think, what it is that you bring to that spot that actually people who come to the show take something away from it.
Right.
That actually, you talk about that kind of Nick Cave thing, and then what you try to do. That kind of how do you make that kind of I don't know, genuine connection?
Yeah.
In a way, it's not. You're not up there playing a role.
Yeah, exactly.
You want to look comfortable
Yeah.
in what you're doing, because that's people want you to look comfortable in what you're doing. That's what enables people to relax into a show
Completely.
and get something emotionally out of it.
Yeah.
And so you kind of, I find that it's, then you have to find out what it is in yourself that you can bring to that and that you feel comfortable bringing to that. And as you say, with lyrics that you might have written it when you're feeling a bit strung out at about 3 or 4 o'clock in the morning at some point. And you're doing that, just going, showbiz, here we go. I suppose moving up to the front of the stage, obviously you feel much more on show than you do behind a drum kit.
Yeah.
And feeling, I feel that I've kind of, I feel like I've really moved on in that.
Yeah.
How
does it compare to the first time around when you went out as a solo artist compared to now in terms of playing live?
It feels very different now. I feel, musically it's very different as well. My first record was very delicate, and that was a very interesting one to try and go out and put across live.
Yeah.
And I was stood there with a guitar for most of it.
Yeah.
And so, which is nice, kind of nice at the time, because there was still something that you could hide behind, not as big as a drum kit. And I've kind of tried to do away with that. I've just wanted to really concentrate just on my performance, on the singing, and just being able to move around the stage. And so it's finding the confidence to do that.
It is a mad psychological thing, isn't it? Thinking that you have all this space, but it's really comfortable just to be around behind a set of monitors and your instrument rather than moving from that spot, Yeah. Because I use in-ears, and it's only the last thing that I did in Switzerland just the other day where I didn't have monitors in front of me, even though I had in-ears, because it's just that psychological kind of barrier, that you can hide behind.
Yeah.
And I'm trying, just like you're saying, to get away from that mentality of, because I do move about, but I'm still very much kind of okay, I'll move about, but this is my safe spot. This is my safe place. And it's, it's so funny. I don't know yet how to get over it. I'm trying, but it's tricky. Yeah.
Well, but as I say, the footage, I've not actually seen you in the flesh live.
Okay.
But the footage I've seen of you, it looks convincing.
Oh, does it?
It's very, very good. It's
fair
excellent.
enough. Thank you very much. That means a lot to me. I just kind of get on with it. I just think I really do feel that it's so important to put on the best show you can, because people have come to see you play.
Absolutely.
And in most cases they've paid for it, and they could have been anywhere. It's such a cliche thing to say. I've heard it in so many films, but you could have been anywhere in the world, but you're here, and that means a lot to me, it really means a lot. And I try to just, and I don't need to instill it in my band, but they definitely have the same mentality of we got to play as hard and as great as we can, because it's so important. So I try to put on a good show, Yeah. How is it with shows of you guys now? Because, I've got to keep going back to the big 3-0, it's coming up. Is it still, I'm sure you guys still enjoy it, but is do you find enjoyment in different things now, that, like at this point, compared to when you first started out? Or is it exactly the same? Like you do your thing and you're happy with the end result or not or whatever, and it's as linear as that? Or
I think there's a very, I mean, it's still very identifiable as the band that started 30 years ago.
Yeah.
For me.
Yeah.
Anyway. And I think there's still that thrill in it where you kind of, it all pulls in the same direction. You know, it's not, again, another cliche here, but it's not about the five individuals. It's suddenly this homogenous thing that is working.
Yeah.
And when you're lost in that, that's amazing.
Yeah.
And that's very identifiable from, you know, there's a bit more skill level in it now from when we started at school.
Right.
But, you know, it's that sense that you lose yourself in the music. You kind of, I suppose you lose that kind of physical awareness of yourself.
Right. Yeah.
That's all driven by what's happening musically.
Right.
And of course, you know, you have nights where you're all too, I mean, like as a drummer, you're all too aware that your limbs, you know, your dyspraxia has kicked in well and truly that night. But those points where you're, you know, they're, as I say, it's just this kind of homogenous body of music that's moving along. That's still a big excitement. Really.
And is that just like you were saying about that kind of about your own stuff, that idea of, you know, reaching for something you can't quite get to is in my head it feels like the same kind of thing in the live arena, in the sense of that moment when everything clicks and you're like, wow, this is it, you know. And it's for me it's like trying to capture that as much as possible, you know.
Yeah, absolutely. And yeah, I mean that's kind of, and the good thing about that is that it's very ephemeral as well by nature, and so, you know, it brings you back to try and seek it out yet again, time and time again.
Time and time again. Gluttons for punishment we are. Yeah, I know what you mean. No, it's interesting, the live thing. Is it what's again? I'm sure you've been asked this many a time, but I need to know because I don't know myself. Is it, what's more enjoyable for you? Like, is it the creation or the end result, what you're putting out live? Is it a different feeling for like the studio stage and the live stage? Is it?
Yeah, very different feelings. In the studio, I think, you know, what ends up on a record are the bits in the sessions that have really worked and has really clicked.
Yeah.
And it comes back to that whole thing we were talking about earlier on, you know, about in the context of people's, you know, pieces of art.
Yeah.
You know, the kind of experiments, the dedication that's gone in behind there. Some of those experiments can be quite an arduous process to go through, and you know, not emotionally satisfying. And so, but you do have those, as you say, you're looking for those moments where there's a spontaneity, and everything just clicks. Yeah. And so you're kind of looking for, you know, 45 minutes worth of those moments on a record. But I love that whole thing of playing live where you're actually looking for that throughout, you know, like a 2-hour set. Yeah. And then it actually becomes focused into those 2 hours. And so, yes, I think I kind of, in that way, I prefer, well, no, but you get something out of both processes, really. But I love that immediacy of live.
Yeah, me too. I do like the whole making of a record stage, but I there's something about live that you can't. It's hard to explain, you know. It's just that, like you say, about the kind of like not so much an outer body experience, but you kind of like lose yourself in the elements and the atmosphere, and it does
and you have
something
an audience
to you.
there
Yeah,
as well.
exactly.
You know, there's that people having that experience there.
Yeah.
And if you're kind of all in, I'm going to start sounding like New Age now, but if you're all within that experience, you're all on that wavelength.
Yeah.
That's a very powerful
Yeah.
place to be, really.
Yeah. I'm talking of stuff like that. Did you ever check out the stuff that PJ Harvey did, like how she recorded her new record? The whole.
I didn't go down there to look at it, but I did read about it. Yeah.
Do you think you'd ever do something like that with your stuff, or Radiohead, or something, like have a, you guys in a box and people viewing what's going on?
Webcams on us.
Because you've done lots of like webcam bits and bobs, you know. What I mean?
Yeah, but then again, that's kind of after.
Oh, yeah, after the fact.
Yeah. I thought it was really brave of her to do
Very,
that.
yeah.
And it would be interesting to talk to her how she feels it's shaped the record, shaped her creative process.
Yeah.
It might have been a really positive thing for her, and it might have. I don't know. I could imagine it would bring a focus to what you're doing because you can't sit around doing your Sudoku for 3 hours, can you?
As you do. People don't know this, but this is what we do. We're making records. It's not about the music, it's about the Sudoku.
But I'm really not sure I'd want people looking in on it myself.
I think it's kind of like, it's the idea. It would be a pressure thing where you think, I've got to pretend like I'm actually know what I'm talking about, and do something magical for the audience. It's like, it must have been tough. I'm intrigued to know. I'm sure there'd be something.
But she
comes out about it.
You get the sense if anybody could pull that off, then it's her.
Yeah,
and she can carry that kind of thing. Really,
definite.
You have to be very confident in what you're doing.
Yeah, she's a confident character. She's quite a confident character. And again, I didn't. Same as you, I didn't check it out. I read about it, but I'm sure there'll be some kind of documentary or something that will come from it, because I'm intrigued to see, and also a record, I guess, from off the back of it. So it'd be interesting to see what's been produced from off the back of that kind of invisible pressure. Because I don't think she could see out, but they could see in. So
right.
She knew people were there. Didn't know how many people were there, but that invisible force of like people are watching and hearing me strum and do nothing, for an hour or not. So interesting.
Yeah, I think it might just contain some of my studio strops a bit more. It's like a form of anger management, isn't it?
I would just be my best behaviour. I'd just be like, how you doing? Yeah, great. How's the kids? Yeah, wonderful. Yeah, I'll just be on my best behaviour. I just couldn't. I just think I can't let the guard drop because people will think I'm an arsehole. Oh, God. Think too much over it.
But then, does that influence what you do?
Yeah, I guess so.
I
guess so. You would, like you say, you would be more focused on an idea, and that may help in some cases, where you'll just procrastinate and allow something to go off for hours when it just needs to be done now. And maybe that would work, for some people. It wouldn't work for me, God. It wouldn't. I'll just let people in. I'll just be like, let's just talk. You being out there is just killing me. Yeah. It's just, I'm intrigued because there's so many new fangled ways of making music, and some of it is a bit fad-like, and some of it is really interesting and forward-thinking. But it's just the world we work in. That's the beauty of creativity.
Yeah, and it's it was an installation in itself, wasn't it?
Yeah,
really?
yeah.
It's just regardless of what comes out of it, it was that
really smart.
The piece was, I suppose, that process of people watching, really.
Yeah, there was another one involving a box. There was like some metal band that decided to play in a box or something like that. And I think it was they were going to keep playing until they ran out of air or something like that. I see a train coming on here, boxes used for different things. So yeah, supposedly they kept playing until the air ran out. Or I don't know. Every day's a new thing, So yeah.
His vocals were starting to sound a bit thin and reedy.
What was that? You is that a word? You want to keep going? Okay, we'll keep going. Yeah.
Do you know we have spoken for?
How long have we spoken for?
86 minutes.
Oh, really?
now.
Wow. Almost an hour and a half. I think that's more than enough.
Blimey.
Footage.
I could quite happily
audio.
go on for another hour and a
No,
half,
it's good
really.
fun. Really good fun.
That's
Yeah.
been great.
Yeah. I've enjoyed it. It's just kind of music. Oh man, music is such a mad thing. It's such a mad thing. It's interesting because we've never met,
Yeah.
but it's that connection. Do you know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
that sonic thing where it's just like you just get it. You know.
Yeah,
You have
absolutely.
the same kind of things going on.
Yeah,
Yeah.
you've got similarly wired brains and
Yeah.
being through.
Oh, not wide in my respect. It's getting very fuzzy nowadays.
You kind of same things kind of probably excite your brain.
Yeah,
put it
yeah,
that way.
completely.
And,
So true. Yeah.
You go through very similar experiences. So.
Yeah,
Yeah.
you do.
That's been great.
Oh, really good fun. Really enjoyed that.
Thank
Nice
you
to
very
meet
much.
Yeah.